Shirley here with Sirius Talis Moon. This is a Jupiter hour, and Jupiter is 15 degrees Cancer. Moon is at the end of Gemini, sextile in Chiron in Aries with Mars in Libra. We got a 29 degrees midheaven in Libra and 10 degrees ascendant Capricorn with Saturn in 0 degree Aries. So just a little shout out there. Annika Lucas is opening spots for a retreat to process things. It's a digital retreat. I do not get, it's not affiliate marketing, but I think for many of you who are targeted individuals um, and ritual abuse survivors, or people who are survivors in general and need to process traumatic experiences, you might want to hop onto Annika Lucas. She's on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and that would be, I think, in November. So that's a great way to begin to funnel energy and resources to survivors of ritual abuse who prepare an even an alternative healing to the junctures of uh, recovery that are occupied by the very targeted individuals program. And so one of my colleague astrologers talked about Pluto being out of bounds between this year to 2035. And in addition, Saturn will oppose Jupiter in 2030. So they spoke about it from a psychological perspective. I might put her link in the comments. I want to talk about the decade of out of bound Pluto that's going to accompany us from a wider perspective, because Pluto in Aquarius is already big. It's the French Revolution, it's the American Revolution, it's secularization, it's democratization, it is the witch hunt and the Inquisition, and at the same time the separation of um, power structures that will accompany us and set the basis to labor movements, um, anti-slavery movements, and feminist movements. And it is a complete rejuvenation in the very orders and secret societies that comprise um, the structures that are farthest from the sun, but are not necessarily farthest from wealth, because Saturn is associated with the architecture in Aquarius. And so we are completely rejuvenating what is set in stone. Up until now, this is just Pluto in Aquarius. However, we have a window of opportunity of a decade of once in 3,000 years where Pluto's oscillation between extremes is going to be unbound by any other agenda. Okay, um, and when you hone in to an out of bound planet, you're basically manifesting the significations of that planet to the extreme. And so we're going to have both the attempts. My last episode was on Planeteer and targeted individuals. And I gave the example of head of NATO because it's a military technology, and I thought, what greater fun than to be looking at what they could target for the head of NATO. And that's a company that basically is setting out to literally own the world. And it's unprecedented in the sense that the aspiration has probably been there, But it's unprecedented in the sense that we're not just talking about owning the land, we're talking about surveillance, we're talking about something that's all encompassing. And that sets the tone for a dialectic, all encompassing individual sovereignty process, particularly with Saturn in Aries, where nothing is set in stone. So when it comes to, for example, even if you think about and I know I complain about that a lot, but if you think about the sneakers wealth, and the sneakers wealth is basically the people that don't wear ties and suits to show that they're wealthy, but they um, they can walk in sneakers and still have the wealth and still be accepted into the rooms that they step into because they have made the money game, okay, good, bad, and evil. They've made the money game in such a way that they don't need to dress up to impress. I know together with that is the economic hitmanship and acting normal, stealth wealth, and so on. There's a lot of dynamic that played into that. But when you think about the sneakers wealth, and you think about the people that don't dress up to be rich or don't play a certain facade to be rich, they don't look like royalty, they don't pretend. And this is a generation of people that began to open the gate for us to rethink what do we expect world to look like. And this is particularly for you targeted individuals. My Planeteer episode with Head of NATO, um, uh, basically looking at online targeting using astrology, that yes, that is done, sozusagen. And it opens the perspective for many targeted individuals to rethink their position, to rethink who else is dealing with the problem. And nothing is set in stone when it comes to the fact that everyday common American, but not only American, um, is dealing with the same problems that oligarchy is dealing with when it comes to being targeted by companies like Planeteer. And that completely changes. And if we combine that with the sneakers wealth, if you think about the family dinners, the social etiquette, the many things that were required and created a different aesthetics and a different, perhaps more relaxed notion of expressing wealth, or what do we have to do when we have money. Um, and again, it's not idealizing anything. The next up is the very fact that there are many watchers, and how that affects our intimate lives. And I posted on Facebook the episode of Pinocchio, of the esoterics of Pinocchio, um, and how many things are now open to question, open to rewriting, open to rethinking when it comes to the world at large, whether it's economy, politics, the rituals around currency. I will do an episode where I elect time to to invent the currency and do a ritual that is benefic to humanity around that coin. Whether you're going to, even the way we legalize coins, um, is different. Please stay, if you want to take that as an exercise. Please stay informed with uh, the concept of targeted individuals, okay? Because that can spike up some tension, okay? Um, I'm talking about a very relaxed exercise to look at currency from the perspective of astrology and to rethink the rituals around currency that can be complementary to practicing wealth mindset that is benefic wealth, that is ethically sourced wealth. And that is very possible. and this is something I know from economists that I met in my life, um, that the wealth is there. The wealth, the resources are there, the wealth is there. It's about redistribution, but it's also about changing of practices, changing of, to quote an inspiration from astrological magic, Christopher Warnock, who's also a lawyer and a Sufi thinker, and he talked about wealth and even stealth wealth. He said the best place to hide a leaf is in the forest. And if that leaf is our wealth, then we want to think about the forest. Do we really want a forest of targeted individuals, of um, the type of betrayal and self-preservation that prevents the opening of the heart, the joy of living, the actually enjoying life, wealth, relations, connection, which is what we make our money for, whether it's the family or children, or even to enjoy life being single, um, and that oscillation of Pluto that gives us, even the founders of Planeteer, Alex Karp, had called the Silicon Valley, and him and Peter Thiel being the founders of the new Frankenstein, they have been also receiving the chance to humble themselves by their own creation, and that opens a myriad a myriad of possibilities. And we see Alex Karp calling Silicon Valley to rethink conscience. So while that can be seen as a Machiavellian power move to make it inauspicious for others to be Machiavellian, or that is also a genuine desire, if one can think about, okay, having the entire world or aspiring to control the entire world, well, you also want to enjoy relationships. You also want to make a life or make a living. You don't want to fear on every eclipse to lose the mandate of the heaven, because you're the leader of leaders um, when it comes to power. And so power distribution, just at the age of Aquarius, became a rationality. Okay, the best place to hide a leaf is in the forest, and that pertains to power, that pertains to wealth, that pertains to joy of living. If everybody is happy, okay, then we don't have to hide um, our, our happiness as much, or we don't have to worry about being seen happy. So. Um, And we also don't have to worry about being seen where not everything is right and so on. It's not about sacrificing our well-being to play pretend. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the essence of um, actually wanting to live and enjoying life. So those oscillations of the out-of-bound Pluto are meant to completely rejuvenate from the core anything Aquarius. So that's the architecture, the masonry, the study of flight, the mass technology, the entirety of humanity, um, the notion of a community that one can actually enjoy being a part of. And as a person that, perhaps by the merit of my tending to political assassination prevention, and then because one of the blocks is extortion cults a la Epstein, then tending to satanic ritual abuse, and I'm standing at the juncture of classes and wealth and worldviews and experiences that is um, quite encompassing, and being aware that all of that is being rewritten, and that is a gigantic window of opportunity. It is Jupiter hour. with Jupiter still in Sirius. It's a gigantic window of opportunity um, to completely rewrite not only the structures of power, but the joy of living within not only planet Earth, but Aquarius is also space. And being informed, because the things come out to the light. Things in the age of no privacy, it's also no privacy to the people that make use of the private details of people. Okay, it's also no privacy to the Epstein codes. It's also no privacy to the mechanisms of targeted individuals, to the wealth families that use expandable children to consolidate wealth. Okay. Um, in the age of Aquarius, stealth wealth is the leaf that hides in the forest rather than the bunker that is a smart bunker that kicks its elite and milieu out, or military milieu out. Okay, then that is something that changes the economics of war and the strategy of war because it's affecting everyone. And that's the point with the age of air. Okay, it is Aquarius, it is Aries, it is Gemini, and those who think they are exempt are, again, there's always going to be a Gadel point, but those who think they are exempt are usually in for a myriad of surprises. The last advice I would give to anybody at the age of air is to think that that their that their gloved hand is unseen. Um, so we're going to have gigantic oscillations. We're going to have gigantic attempts because many of the advices people have been operating according to are outdated. And when something like that is exposed, that is exposing many things that, messages that people thought are deleted. Um, okay, and it requires for radical acceptance. As a person who has been filmed or been surveilled in an apartment where I lived, um, it requires for radical acceptance. Hey, I'm a human being. And also the frequencies that we didn't see before, because this is not Aquarius. This is not Leo. Um, the frequencies that we haven't seen before are going to be visible. So it's not working just on the image and the power of the image, of the visible spectrum. A lot more is going to be visible. Channeling is visible in the brain. Um, and so the division of consciousness also is visible. Our thoughts are visible. Um, and more people are exposed to the problems of the invisible elite. Not just the elite, the invisible elite. Because if every person is surveilled, that's what the oligarchy is dealing with. If every person has to act normal, that's what the economic hitmans are dealing with. And um, and thus the veil is lifting so people can see things in a bigger spectrum. And understand the trajectories more. We have the esoterics of secret societies open to be seen online. And the more they will try to control, whether it's digital ID or control currency or control this or control that, the more the first of all, these programs target their founders. Okay, so the interest to dissolve these all-encompassing controlling structures into something that's actually benefic for us, as well as the lack of ability to prevent wealth redistribution, whether it's by new money, whether it's by technology that is changing. Okay, if you think about Silicon Valley, is something that is of the last century. Okay, of course, people invented things before, and there was always technology, but the .com at the Silicon Valley is something that did give us completely new venues for entrepreneurship. Um, we also have generations of uh, people who went out, who opted out of these structures of wealth, but not to give up wealth, but to rewrite wealth. So I hope this video gives us a perspective to think about things and understand that the following decade is going to be megalithic with both the oscillation but also the rewriting of what is set in stone on a cellular level. Um, a little bit about 2030 and the opposition between Saturn and Jupiter. We're going to have Saturn with Ketu and the ruler with Rahu. It means that from the traditional form of trade and the orthodoxy and the debt-based and the slavery-based and the digital slavery-based society, we are going to be rethinking those structures. And many of you, like me, have been thinking about it. I'm sure I'm not that special. Thinking about, hey, all these structures, they can actually serve us. All these structures that came to limit us can actually serve us. And we can actually use those big structures, instead of being a digital prison, to a digital framework and structure that brings freedom rather than prevents it. And freedom in Sagittarius, particularly with Venus, is going to be with Jupiter in Sagittarius in 2030, is both of equity. Okay, the woman priestess, the woman philosopher, side by side to the man philosopher. By the way, Uranus is more associated with the gender division, and there are a lot of people who are thinking about whether their gender is because of satanic abuse or not. That can open the path to pansexuality um, or or sexuality that's actually coming from um, being connected rather than being abused, um, and rethink um, how do we tend to LGBTQ rights. Also, astrology and science is going to be rewritten. A huge emphasis on freedom is going to be there, and it's definitely going to create a new astrology. The trade is going to be the motives underneath trade is going to be freedom of trade, and there's going to be tremendous expectation. And as Venus is in Sagittarius, it means that the woman that is free to participate in the philosophy, in the religious thinking, and so on and so forth, is basically the very Lilith that was cast out of heaven. Is, instead of being an incubus or a succubus, makes her place for an actual sovereign Venus, a sovereign free connection that is not a shame of the erotic and the sexual transmutation, not in the form of incubus or succubus, but actually in a form that is benefic. And in that way, we are purging the Lilith that was important to us on that year specifically in favor of the incarnation of a Venus that is actually enjoying the spiritual tantric freedom of connection and full participation, which is necessary for the structures of power to actually serve um, the joy of living. Okay, and that can express itself as the feminine, although the emphasis is really on Venus as the women. Um, in that regard. But Mercury is still going to be Sagittarius, so even in LGBTQ, we're going to rethink LGBTQ to actually not be a form of satanic abuse, but rather a form of a freedom in a more benevolent, okay, the more um, okay, even when we think about Baphomet, we would expect Baphomet to assist us to recover from satanic abuse or from childhood abuse. We would expect Satan to set the structure so that children are not exploited. So, and yet it's still ruling over Pluto and Aquarius. The oscillation is tremendous, and it's still a dialectic process. So it means that there are going to be things that challenge everything that I said. Um, More things about this out of bound Pluto in Aquarius. It also means that um, the understanding that what no longer serves metaphorically or physically will die out in mass is going to be even more um present than in a usual Pluto and Aquarius cycle. But also the wealth redistribution is going to be even more present. And you can think about the people that are targeted individuals trying to think, hey, who else is dealing with that problem? Well, we are targeted by a military conflict, the military elite, the oligarchy. Okay, all of these people, the people that have the stealth wealth, people that are criminals, people that are running away from criminals. Um, and through that, rediscovering society on its richness and, and desiring for a better human experience that is joyous and less restrictive, not in a freedom that devours and haunts, but in a freedom we can actually relax into. So, and that's the requirements of the nervous system. Okay, people are brought into their limitation, particularly with Saturn in Aries. People are brought into the limitation, the inflammation, the mental states that are inflammation induced, the need to have food that is actually nourishing, soil that is actually nourished and nourishing, the discernment. Okay, what is actually good for us, what is not, a love that is actually loving on all level of being. All the outdated, even Schwab is being litigated for sexual harassment because people want to do away with that, and those are the cloned people that were are part of the rituals of perpetrators and being victims, and yet people want out of that trajectory. Okay, the new generation, they want out of that trajectory, not by giving up the wealth and being exploited, but rewriting the wealth and rewriting power and the structures of power, how we do military, how we do economy, how we do banking, how we do real estate, masonry, okay, architecture, how we do occult, okay, ritual, because everything has a ritual. Anybody that went somewhere in their career, there is always a ritual. And for that ritual to be different, to not be human sacrifice based or um tremendous suffering based or what people talk about when they escape satanic ritual abuse.